Hello, hello. Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. And I hope that you guys were not completely confused and changed your clocks and you will join us tonight. I'm so excited to bring Norman Flatkin to you. I mentioned last week, hello, Marina. I mentioned last week how all these speakers were booked so long ago, but how godly this schedule was organized. And I'm bringing them exactly when at least I need to hear from them. I cannot wait to hear from Norman. I hope you are also excited. When you come in, please say your name, especially if you're not approved StreamYard, because then I see that you're here, but I don't see your name. And just want to remind everybody that I still have a few, not too many, Blue Life Universe books if you want to purchase, or the Heal with Gold. And I actually showed on my Facebook page how I'm packaging them in a gold bubble envelope. So if you want to give a gift, these would make amazing gifts, and I'm happy to give them to you for this great price, including I'm signing all the books, so don't miss out. Okay, people, I cannot wait to hear from Norman, and without further ado, I'm going to bring him. He's going to introduce himself. He has a fascinating life and a fascinating change of life because of health. So let's hear from Norman Flatkin. Hello, Norman. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks.
I am so happy to have you. I am so curious about your life, and I am sure the people who are here or the people who will listen to it afterwards want to hear from you. They want to hear about the incredible life change that you have made, like 180 degrees. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I also made a change in my career for very different, maybe somewhat different reasons. But I think that a lot of people are afraid to change, especially after we have accrued years and years of experience in one area of our lives. And we're older and we don't know what. I'm going to start now at this age without experience. When I did 25 years of marketing and graphic design with a focus in pharmaceutical. I worked with Pfizer, Schering-Plough, Merck, Bayer Healthcare, all of these companies working in ethics and compliance. And then when I hit adversity and I need a change, I said to myself, I want to do something new that I know nothing about. So I'm going to be super busy and I'm not going to think about my pain. And I said, I'm going to become a fashion designer. That's a great idea. I don't know how to sew. I don't know anything about fashion, but I'll become a fashion designer. And that's what I did. And I was 44 years old. So the reason I'm mentioning all of that is because I want everybody to know that if for whatever reason anybody feels that they need to change because their values changed, because their circumstances changed in their lives, it's never too late. And I want to hear your experience, where you were, what you were doing, and then what are you doing now and what made you change?
Okay. Well, I am a certified clinical hypnotherapist now, but I haven't always been. I got out of high school and I went in the Marine Corps, and then I got out of the Marine Corps, worked in the oil fields, and then like a rock plant where we made little rocks out of big rocks. And about 25 years old, I realized, I should have gone to college, and I did. I was prompted by the death of my brother in a car accident, which kind of changed my life. It woke me up, and I went to school, and I was in a hurry at 25, and I walked onto a community college campus and did my associate degree in a year and a half. And then I transferred to the university in the state capital area, and I finished my bachelor's in a year and a half. One semester in, I had an internship at the state legislature. I started out as a clerk in the state assembly, and that began a 25-year career in government, politics, and lobbying. So I spent 10 years working for the legislature, among which I ran campaigns. I was the health committee consultant to the state assembly, the insurance committee consultant. Then when I left there after 10 years, I went to work as a lobbyist for the California Medical Association. So I lobbied for the physicians, the 30,000 member physician trade group before the legislature. And I did that for a few years. And then I ventured off. I opened my own firm. And for 13 years, I represented energy, petroleum, and automotive clients before the legislature. And, they were small companies, always kind of the underdog fighting against big business and against big regulation. And, but it's still, politics is a dirty business, and the money, and, you can make a great argument, you could do all the research, and you can still lose. And so it can be very difficult at times. I could produce a study on either side of any question. That's how crazy things are today in our technocratic society. Their science is for sale, basically. So I was wrapped up. My whole identity was I was a lobbyist, and I had fancy cars and suits and a big house and a great life. What I thought was a great life, but it made me sick. I got cancer, and interestingly, it was thyroid cancer, my throat chakra, my voice in the world. I spoke for others, but didn't have my own authentic voice. And so, because I knew hundreds of doctors, I had great treatment. I followed the rules. They cut my thyroid out and lymph nodes and 2 rounds of radiation. And I just wanted to get back to normal. I didn't realize it was the normal which made me sick. And this was, although my identity was wrapped up into it, my soul's purpose was nothing like this. And so, again, it came back. I had to have a second round of radiation because I hadn't made any changes in my lifestyle or anything, basically. And so, at the time that I got the second round of radiation, my marriage fell apart. The business, I didn't want to do it anymore. And it was really, really scary. I had a friend who had gotten out of politics, and she opened a yoga studio. She took me through therapeutic yoga for cancer. She took me through Pilates to get my strength back because I was emaciated, 2 rounds of radiation. It's awful. Cut, burn, and poison is the allopathic approach to treating cancer because they believe it's high percentage therapies, but it's really brutal on your body. And so I got my strength back, and I learned to meditate. That hyper analytical mind that made me a great analyst and lobbyist was not real good at 10 o'clock at night when the walls start moving in and you're not sure what you want to do and what direction you want to go. And making a change, I was afraid. I knew fear for the first time in my life. I was going to lose my big house and all my fast cars and all the things that I thought that was me, that made me me. And it turns out none of that was me. That was all external material things that all added to my dis-ease, right? And so I walked away from all of it at 46 years old.
So when you say you walked away from all of it, what do you mean? Like you closed your business, you sold your house?
Yep. I divorced, and we were business partners. I closed the business as it was and left the clients to her, left the house to her, moved to Los Angeles, and I initially took a job as the executive director of a large trade association, but that was just more of the same. It lasted a year. And then, I began to really, really question. And I began having experiences where the clairs showed up, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairaugustance, and these gifts that I didn't know anything about. I'm like, what is going on, right? And so I was led to this. Just happens as the only nationally accredited school for hypnotherapy is in the valley, San Fernando Valley, near where I was living. And so I entered, and I didn't look back, and I jumped in with both feet. It was, the notion that I'm a hypnotherapist was almost kind of comical. Yeah, it's like if you'd have said I was going to be a hypnotherapist 10 years ago, I probably would have had a good chuckle. But, the thing is, it's the power of the subconscious mind. And so when I began this spiritual awakening, teachers began to appear. And I read books like The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer, Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Meese, Quantum Healing by Deepak Chopra, and others, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Eckhart Tolle. You can read Eckhart Tolle, Awakening to Your Essential Purpose, and still not figure out what it is. It takes time. It takes introspection, and it takes reflection. And so I went inward, and I learned to meditate deeply. And I started opening, a spiritual path and believing in the power of the subconscious mind. And I didn't want to go the chemical path. Hypnosis and hypnotherapy is a natural modality. It's a non-invasive, organic, and non-chemical. And so for all of these reasons and the power of the subconscious mind, Joseph Murphy, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, there's so many great books and so many examples of how people have used their own innate abilities and gifts and powers to heal themselves and to create a new path. Dr. Joe Dispenza says we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts every day, and 90% of them are the same as they were yesterday. And wouldn't it be nice if we could make change without having a big breakup or an illness or a job loss? Usually it takes some kind of earth-shattering experience for people to make drastic change. And so I look for ways to help people make change in their lives, meaningful change, without having to have the severe heartache of all of those things I just are enumerated: the disease, breakup, job loss. All of these big major traumas in life are the things that usually get people to make changes. I mean, you referenced it. I had the cancer was I wrote my first book, Take Charge of Your Cancer, The 7 Proven Steps to Healing and Recovery. I wanted to call it The Unwrapped Gift, because the cancer really was a gift. But my publisher said, Norm, cancer was probably a gift for you, but how long did it take you to figure that out? I'm like, yeah, it was a few years. She said, you got to meet people where they are. And when they're in it, they're not thinking it's a gift. So instead, it's oriented toward men, but anyone with cancer, because women go to the doctor more often. They have annual checkups. Men, they don't ever go. And so it's a take charge, because when you get the diagnosis, you want to do something besides just go get a second opinion. And it's very disempowering, the whole allopathic approach. You can get a second opinion, you show up to your appointments, but the doctor, you got 5 minutes with he or she may be brilliant, but you got 5 minutes with them, and they're not there at 10 p.m. when the walls start moving in and you have real questions about what's going on. And so you really do need to take charge of your own healthcare and your own plan, and because no one has more skin in the game than you do.
It's so true. I'm going through a tremendous health crisis with my husband. And you hit the nail on the head when you said that men don't go to the doctor, because my husband's family, the culture was always don't look for anything, because if you look, you find. So just don't look for anything. And he was thin and he always ate healthy. He didn't like sugar. So we thought that he's the thin one. I'm the unhealthy one because I'm rounded. And and I always, listen, not in a bad way. I always say, us chubby people, we give better hugs. So it was what it was, but if anybody was going to get sick, it would be me, not him. But what's incredible was that my husband had 7 years of panic attacks, and everybody, correlated this to emotional issues. But at the end of the day, they found that he has a growth in his adrenal gland, which is excreting cortisol. So all of these years, it was something that, if they would have looked for that, it could have been removed sooner. Listen, could it be that if he meditated, and he actually did some meditation, but if he did hypnotherapy, he could have healed better sooner, not gotten to the point that he's today? Probably. But also there are, significant physical things that the medical establishment, they look for something, they have the answers before you even ask. And it's very sad. I have to work as a true advocate. I have to be strong and say, no, this doesn't sound right. But I really, really believe in the natural holistic approach, because I'm noticing more and more that when you go to doctors, they're not treating a patient, a person, a human, but they're treating an organ. Each doctor only takes care of the organ, but we are a combination of organs that are working in synchronicity, right? And there's so many things that can affect the break on health, right? And it brings disease. So I'm very, very curious to hear from you. What is your approach like as far as cancer? Because you were affected by cancer, and your connection more is with cancer, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a program, a plan in place for preventative, for prevention of cancer?
Oh, sure. The 7 steps for healing and recovery also can be prophylaxis, and the 7 steps are radically change your diet, deepen your spirituality, learn to meditate, commune with your subconscious mind through hypnosis and hypnotherapy, release repressed emotions, a very big one. Take charge of your healthcare, because no one has more skin in the game than you do. And finally, have a reason to live. Don't just be afraid of dying. Look around today. I mean, in the current pandemic, people are afraid to die, and it's a very unhealthy situation. You can make yourself sick. There's the placebo effect and there's the nocebo effect. The placebo effect is where any drug that goes to market has to be measured against the placebo, which is a sugar pill or an inert material. 30% of the time, people given the sugar pill heal.
That's right.
That's the power of the mind. Conversely, the nocebo effect, there's been studies of medical school students who upwards of 70% experience symptoms of the diseases that they're studying. You can make yourself sick just as much as you can make yourself better. So it's called expectancy. And it's kind of why sometimes doctors won't tell you what's going on, because they don't want you to, jump ahead. This is what the mind does, right? And so living your life with a positive outlook and with habits and approaches to life that are holistic are going to help you. The biggest thing, I'll tell you, when I was writing my book, I studied a bunch of different thoughts and authors and theories. There was a doctor in the 70s named Dr. Carl Simonton, and he was a radiological oncologist, and he had a theory that that when we don't resolve repressed emotions, and trauma is cumulative, so the trauma accumulate, and if we don't resolve these repressed emotions, at some point the subconscious mind can perceive death as a way out of the emotional pain. And the emotional pain can be subterranean. You don't even realize the causal connection between this trauma that you experienced in childhood and 10 subsequent traumas. But the subconscious mind is in pain, and it perceives death as a way out of the pain, and it'll begin to modulate your neurochemistry, and your hypothalamus will begin to create neurochemistry that shuts down your immune system. You see, a powerful immune system, we all have mutations, but the powerful immune system will manage them. It's the runaway mutation that becomes cancer. And so dealing with the emotions, there's a ton of the emotion code. There's so many. There's a Dr. Candace Pert who's about the emotions, and she's written about the emotions. And there's also The Body Keeps the Score is another great book. And so it's our inner world, and managing our inner world. the notion that we can control the outer world is illusion. What we can do, we control our inner world, and it helps us show up in a bigger way in the outer world. And so the things that we can do, diet is a big one. I mean, we're poisoning ourselves today. Sugar is in everything, and preservatives and sugar, and it just fresh foods, juicing. There's a whole lot of different ways that you can go about managing your diet in a way. Our distribution system with fresh food is unmatched in the world, and so there really is no excuse. But we're busy, and we're running around, and we're looking for convenience, and that convenience is going to shorten our lives. So there are things you can do. Among those 7 things, the diet, the spirituality. I mean, no matter what you call God or the divine, all paths lead through the divine. There is something larger than ourselves, and we connect to it. So modern medicine is based on materialism, cell, tissue, organ, system. And the doctors organize themselves around the organs or the systems. And we are moving away from materialism. We are shifting from the Pisces epic and Newtonian mechanics and materialism and the patriarchy into the age of Aquarius, and away from duality and conflict and into feminine energy and cooperation and collaboration and energy in the quantum field. And so energetically, we have the ability to influence our bodies and our place in the world energetically in the quantum field. And this is a far better approach. And as the physicists are studying, the quantum field and whatnot, they're understanding that we didn't used to think that there was anything subatomic, right? But now we know there are subatomic particles, neutrinos, and quarks, and they've done experiments where light has a dual nature, both the wave and particle, and they experimented to see if matter had a dual nature as well. And what they found was, when they did this experiment with these subatomic particles, when they experimented to see if it was a particle, it acted like a particle. And when they experimented to see if it was a wave, it acted like a wave. And so they've dubbed this the observer effect. And all that really means is that energetically, we have the ability to affect matter in a non-linear fashion, in a non-causal fashion. And so I think there's Dr. Neo, is a Japanese doctor who's done these experiments where we can influence water molecules.
Oh yes, it was in Japan, I think it was done. I spoke about it even in my book. It's amazing. They clean the water through the prayers to the water, because it changed the molecules. They looked beautiful, actually. When they put in a microscope, the molecule of the water looked really beautiful, as opposed to like very rough and squarish. And it was
right. So 2 things. Number 1, that beauty.
And you could did you hear about the rice test?
No.
So this is on YouTube. You can search it, because a lot of people are doing this at home. They take rice and they put it in glass containers, and they put like a tape, and then they write on the tape, to this rice you speak nice and you say nice words, and then to this rice you speak bad words, and to this rice you don't speak at all. And the mold grew tremendously, where you said you were a horrible rice, you're disgusting, you're despicable. That container became full of mold. The one that you were silent to had some mold, and then the one that you spoke nicely to the rice, it was clean and it was beautiful. And you can see kids are doing this, and it's such an amazing way for us to see what you're just saying, how we have control and power over material. Yeah.
That's right. So coming out of that material age and the Enlightenment period, and we got very materialistic and scientific, and we lost our humanity. And so it's really important that we come back to our humanity and realize how much power we have. So these, Jung wrote about it in synchronicity, where, bumping into someone that in the town, is a mathematician can calculate the probability. But when two things happen that are separate and non-causal, this is real magic, and what I believe is proof of higher, power and divinity. Just like the beauty of those water molecules, that, this is proof that there's something bigger than us. So, well, I'm really concerned, this whole social distancing, because 6 feet, this 6 feet is when my heart energy picks up your heart energy. We are water and electricity. We are a lot of water and electricity, and we can feel each other. And so it's part of our humanity. And it's really important that we stay in touch with the energetics of being human. And so we can influence, the placebo nocebo effect is one example, and the power of positive thinking, the, controlling your inner world. The outer world is just a mirror of your inner world. And so if we maintain a positive inner world, then that our outer world is going to reflect that back to us. And so we are so powerful. But back to that scientific thing, we want to make things more complicated than they need to be. There's an old adage, Occam's razor, the simplest explanation is always the best, right? But we want some complicated, and this is one of the things that I have to share with people about hypnosis and hypnotherapy. It's deceptively simple.
Mm-hmm.
It has the power to change without drugs, without complicated and elaborate explanations. Now, the good news is, in the old days, it was chalked up to anecdotal evidence, and it was not seen to be part of evidence-based medicine, and non-repeatable, because it was very subjective based on the client's experience. But now we have machines that can measure what's going on in the brain, and now we know that there are objective measures that go on during the state of hypnosis, and that affects our brain and our thinking and the mind-body connection. And I'm glad to see that, there's development in allopathic medicine. There's a discipline called psychoneuroimmunology, which is basically mind, body, spirit, So, and there's a lot of headway on the part of hospitals and health systems toward complementary and alternative medicine. They call it CAM. And it's, to a certain extent, it's some lip service, but it's growing because people are asking for it. And, if you can, through non-invasive means, address some of your internal issues before you cut, burn, and poison, shouldn't we try that first? People always come to me last. They're desperate. They come to me for hypnotherapy because they've tried everything else. And, I have people who've been in psychotherapy for 9 years. I'm like, didn't you wonder about year 3 if this was going to work for you? Like, the same thing that made me a great analyst and lobbyist makes me a great hypnotherapist, because I take a deep history. I go to their childhood experiences, their family structures, and I take stock of their experiences. And this is fertile ground, because life is a contact sport, and you get nicked up along the way. And if you don't process the emotions that are associated with those nicks, you're going to have ramifications, whether they're neuroses or dis-ease or all kinds of things that are going to come about.
I went through one hypnotherapy session, and before I did, I vowed that I would never do it. And the reason was, and the reason I'm also bringing this up, is because a lot of people don't understand what it means to be under hypnotherapy. Because I thought that I would be in a complete sleep state, and I would say silly things that would make me look like an idiot. And I am a control freak. I've never gotten drunk in my life, ever. Never tried any kind of recreational drugs. Like, I am super good, but not because I never wanted to make myself look foolish. And I was afraid that if I would be hypnotized, that I would do something foolish. I would say something silly. It wouldn't look good, you know? So this friend of mine who's a hypnotherapist, she told me, but it's not like that. If you sense that you need to go to the bathroom, you're going to feel it and you're going to say, I need to go to the bathroom. You can go to the bathroom, come back. You're not completely sleeping. You are in a state that you can access part of your mind that's very deep, but you're not aware. So I said, okay, it was a 3-hour session, including her explanation. And it was the most incredible experience of my life. We recorded it. It was over Zoom, so we recorded it. And I've listened to it again. Oh, I lost him. Oh, and I'm talking to myself. Okay, guys, I'm going to continue, and hopefully he's going to rejoin. When I was in that session, we recorded it, and I was able to come back and listen to it and listen to the things that I was saying, and they were so eye-opening. Things and feelings about my life that I repressed, that I wasn't speaking about it, that I wasn't dealing with it, they definitely came out in the session. And it was such a great opportunity that it was recorded, because I could go back and listen to it. And very interesting, I gave it to my husband to listen to it too. And it was very eye-opening for him as well. So it's such a pity that we lost Norman. Hopefully he's going to come back. This is the first time that this ever happened, but hopefully he's going to come back and join. I found fascinating. I'm very curious. I want to ask Norman about the cancer, if it came back since he changed the way he structures his life. So maybe if he comes back, we'll deal with that. If anybody has any questions in the meantime, I want to start putting some of your comments. That would be great, Spencer, go through that. Marina, I'm telling you, I would love to do it again. Really felt that I learned so much from it. About myself, and when the session was over, there was a lightness that I felt that I had never felt before. I don't go regularly to therapy, but I've done therapy at very difficult times of my life, and it was very different feeling, because after therapy, sometimes I'm drained, I'm exhausted. You have to speak about things that are painful, and here it was it was a lightness. So I definitely recommend for those who would like to try. I'm trying to become positive thinker. It's not as easy as it was on my thing. It is not. To be a positive thinker, I always say like that. When you try to be a positive thinker by lying, by saying things that are not true, it really doesn't work, because you can't lie to yourself. You know the truth. So to me, when I'm going through hard times, like now we're going through a very hard time, I try to find the positive within the negative. And I try to focus on those things. And I can say, well, this is terrible. This is very hard, but this is a blessing. And let me focus on that. So when you attach yourself to something that you do see that it's positive in your life, because it never works when you just say, oh, tomorrow is going to be much better. It may not. I remember when the year was going to change, and everybody was so excited to go from 2020 to 2021. And I was saying, what, you think that when it strikes midnight, COVID is gone and the financial instability is gone and what's happening politically in our country is gone? No. So when we attach ourselves to things that are not real, then we know that it's not real, and it doesn't convince us. But when we start looking for blessings that do exist in our life, and then we say, okay, that is very positive, let me focus on that. He was talking about the mind, how the mind has so many thoughts, and but at the same time, when your conscious mind has one thought at a time, one thought, right? If I'm here with you, I'm here with you. I'm talking to you. I'm thinking about what I'm saying to you. If you were talking to me, I'm listening to what you're saying at this moment. And here he is back. You're back. Let me just finish my thought. So when you have that one thought, when you see that yourself going to a negative place, you can say, okay, hold on, stop. Yeah, that is difficult, but let me focus on this blessing. I was talking, Norman, when I lost you, when you were gone, about how the mind is thinking all the time and there are so many thoughts, but the conscious mind is only thinking about one thought that you realize that you have. And one way, because one person said that she's trying to become a positive thinker, think more positively, but it's hard. And one thing that helps me is that when I see my mind going to the gutter, or my mind is going to everything is bad, everything is this, look, my husband is sick. At that moment, I say, I can focus on that, or I can focus on look how my children are helping me and being so kind to me during this difficult time. So I can say, okay, I acknowledge this complicated time of my life, but I choose to move and focus on a real blessing. Because when people lie to themselves and they say, oh, tomorrow's going to be, everything is going to be excellent. Oh, very soon I'm going to be healthy and perfect. You're lying to yourself. You don't know. And you cannot lie to yourself. Ultimately, you know the truth. And what you don't know, you don't know. So focus on blessings, in my opinion, really, really helps you become less sad, less depressed. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, it can be difficult, though, when you're in the middle of it. It's really hard to
I'm losing you. Can you guys hear Norman?
refocus. So walks down the hall to his room and opens the door, and his room is full of horse manure. And he says, there's a pony in here somewhere. So having a positive attitude is really important. But sometimes when you're mired in stuff, it's really hard to overcome it with affirmations. So here's what I recommend instead. In any moment, there are two places that our heart space can be: love or fear. Mm-hmm. If you're in fear, it gives rise to all negative emotions. If you're in a state of love, it gives rise to all positive emotions. And so what I coach my clients to come up with an image, an icon, a picture of what love is to you. A red rose, a red heart, a peace sign, Jesus, whatever love is to you. And have that picture, because words get convoluted and contextual. And if you have a picture, and in any moment, you just bring that picture of what love is to you into your heart space. This is how I got through my cancer and the subsequent stuff. It's because I told you, it was never about just the cancer. And my worst moments, I just brought love into my heart space. You can do meditations on love, but you don't even need to meditate. I do body scans throughout the day. Am I coming from a place of love or fear? You see, when you're in a place of love in your heart space, you cannot have negative emotions. You see the positive in everything. It's the ultimate silver lining. Viktor Frankel wrote Mankind's Search for Meaning. He was Viennese. Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Yeah. One of here.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah. One of my favorite.
Yeah. So he was in a concentration camp, and he kept notes about who survived and who didn't. And he wrote his book, Man's Search for Meaning, and he developed logotherapy. But one of my favorite quotes of his is, between stimulus and response, between action and reaction is a space. And in that space, you get to decide what kind of human being you want to be, who you want to show up as. And if you're reactionary, if you want to leak all your power out to him, her, the government, the corona, whatever, then that's a conscious choice that you make. But if you scan, come from a place of love, decide in that moment you're going to be a loving human being, this is how we control our lives, our inner world, so that our outer world will reflect and mirror back that loving space in our heart space. It's either love or fear, and fear is false evidence appearing real. So in that fear state, your analytical mind is going to support you're going to find evidence for all of that negative fear. You're going to go out, your mind will find evidence in the outside world for that fear-based state that's in your heart center. So
I love that. I love that, Norman. But it's so interesting because you mentioned having a visual, and you got me right there because as an artist, I'm all about the visual. This is how I function. And I always say that the Japanese art of kintsugi, I don't know if you're familiar with it. You are.
Yeah.
I say kintsugi saved my life. And when people may think that I'm exaggerating, but what I do with kintsugi is exactly what you said. I have a dish here. When I think about I'm feeling broken, I have something like this in my mind, and I say, it's okay. I can be broken, but I can put myself back together. And that visual takes away the fear and say, well, I'm just going to have more gold in me. I'm just going to be wiser for this experience that I'm going through. And what a blessing it is that now I have this knowledge that I can share, and maybe I can save somebody. In general, a very private person. I'm not the type of person to put pictures of my kids online. It's just not, my thing. I'm more of an introvert, but I am being open and speaking about my husband's health because I feel that it's giving purpose to what I'm going through. I'm saying to myself, you know what? I mean, I may be a little embarrassed, a little, awkward, but if one person will go to the hospital because of this, or to the doctor and do a blood test, or start hypnotherapy, or start NET. We spoke about NET last week.
Yep.
Then it was the whole experience that I went through was a blessing. So I have to make it a blessing. It's up to me to make it a blessing. But one thing I want to focus, because I worry that people think when we're talking about this holistic and alternative that, oh, you're going to start meditating and now you're going to be happy all the time. It's not like that. We break, and breaking is painful. And it's also okay to give yourself a certain amount of time to say, this hurts. This is uncomfortable. But I have within me a way to fix it. I can overcome it. But I don't want people to ever think that it's not okay to cry, or to all of these feelings are feelings that we got. There's a reason for them. There's a place for them.
Oh, yeah. It's the range of human experience. It's part of being human.
Right.
The problem is when we get stuck in them, we get stuck in these energies. I always, allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to feel. You're supposed to feel something here. That's why people come to me and they've been taking pills forever because they don't want to be anxious. Well, being anxious is a signal. Right. Because the people who get on these pills and then never feel anxious anymore, they miss stuff and get themselves into trouble because they missed that thing that should have made them anxious. And, so they do something different. So it really is important to understand. Emotion exists here on Earth and nowhere else in the universe. It's a very dense experience. We come here, our souls are eternal, and we come here to learn lessons. And it's part of being human. We learn the lesson and move forward, and we can decide how we feel about that lesson. This made me sad, and I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to move on. Doesn't mean I'll never be sad again. I was in a position, life gave me the gift to be in position to care for each of my parents in the last year of their life. They hadn't been together for many years, but they died within a year of each other. They each had a stroke, one then the other, and I cared for them. And I fulfilled what I believe was a soul purpose, a soul contract. They brought me in, and I helped them exit. And I didn't see it as a sad thing. They were 94 and 85 and lived great lives. And it was a transition. Was there sadness? Absolutely. But there was more joy. And so, allow yourself to feel the range of emotions. It's part of being alive.
Right.
But then understand how powerful you are and how capable you are to move through the emotions. And the negative emotions can be moved through by bringing that love into your heart space. And whether it's a kintsugi image or whatever image brings you back to a place of love instead of fear. That's the thing that's going to help you, because it's because the subconscious mind is going to reject when we feel like we're just cheering ourselves up. The subconscious mind is like, yeah, you can. Remember Stuart Smalley on the Saturday Night Live? He looked in the mirror and I'm smart, I'm handsome, and doggone it, people like me. It's like you will reject these things that we don't believe in, right? So there's a process that we can go through to manage our emotions.
Norman, I wanted to know something, because when you were gone, I told everybody that I'm very curious. How has your health been since you made this change in your life? And do you have somebody that does hypnotherapy on you? How do you get this holistic type of treatment?
Well, you're very suggestible to yourself. So there are times when I record myself and then listen back. And I also see an acupuncturist who's very, very good. My health has been very good because I made all these lifestyle changes. I exercise, I eat right, I stopped drinking. And I'm filled with joy. The largest, biggest thing is that love is in my heart space. And I found my soul's purpose, and I come to work every day filled with joy because I'm making a positive influence in other people's lives without pills. And they leave my office feeling better. And so these are the things that fill my cup, that I'm so grateful that I found my purpose. I mean, that alone, like it just lifts me. It lifts me considerably. And then I live in such a fashion that I feel great. I'm turning 57 this year, and I snow ski double black diamonds. I ride a motorcycle. Last 2 summers ago, my friend found the ski boat that it was his dad's in the 70s, and we fixed it up, and my kids got to see me water ski, and I think about my dad when he was 57, he wasn't water skiing. So I keep a great positive state of mind. I keep love in my heart space. I'm active, and I eat right, and I'm filled with the joy of being able to be of service to others.
Give us a quick rundown of your regular day. Are you one of those people that wake up at 5 a.m.?
I love 5 a.m., but I don't get there. I wake up at 6:37.
Okay.
Sometimes I do 5. I was raised on a ranch, and so I was up early. The critters need to be fed and cleaned up after and whatnot. But I wake up 6:30, 7 o'clock, and I can't wait to come to the office. And I'm here till 8 or 9 o'clock because I really love what I do. And so it's not like work. And I write, and I appear on like shows like this, and I try and I want the whole world to know. I want that. So if we can circle back now, I want the whole world to know that Vegas stage shows are a demonstration of how powerful hypnosis can be, because look at how funny they look when they get up and cluck like chickens and bite into onions and think they're apples. Okay. So that just shows you how powerful it is. But I'm very uncomfortable by that whole thing. What I am is convinced in the power of hypnosis and hypnotherapy to help people in organic, non-invasive, and non-chemical ways. And so it's not a loss of control. You mentioned that you were a control person, and the largest number one concern of people is that they're going to experience a loss of control. It's not a loss of control. And you're not going to blab all your deepest, darkest secrets. In fact, I need you to tell me those in the cognitive portion before I put you into hypnosis, because those are the things that are going to allow me to help you, right? To connect the dots of your experiences that have caused you to have this glitch in your programming, right? It's like strings of code in the human operating system is our subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is the same part of the mind that keeps our temperature in homeostasis and our heart rate and our involuntary muscles operating. It's the same part of the mind that allows us to learn how to ride a bike once and not have to learn over and over and over again, or to drive a stick shift, or for an athlete to practice their sport over and over and over and become very, very good at it. And so It's that same part of the mind that you have an experience and it creates a behavior. And that behavior is supposed to protect you from that experience. But the experience and the threat may be long gone, but you hold on to that behavior because the subconscious is afraid to be exposed to that experience again. And so oftentimes what we do is we go back and allow you to help release that behavior. So because it doesn't serve you any longer, right? Riding the bike will serve you, but.
So let me ask you, I did only one session. It was fascinating. I loved it. And I would 100% do it again. But just from one session, it wasn't like a complete full treatment on anything. You have to do, a whole bunch of them. But I did pinpoint something that was throughout my whole life, something that I kept saying throughout my whole life. So then what happens after the hypnotherapy? The relationship is that you are completely awake and you talk about that thing? Is that how it would proceed in a...
Yeah. So it starts with a consultation and I take a deep history, and I sometimes cause emerges and sometimes not. And so then I have a series of hypnotherapy sessions that I do. To the first few are the remedial that we undo, and then the next few are to write the new story. And so we start with talking about what the goals are and what we want to achieve, and then I take them into hypnosis and I give them suggestions. I hypnotize them, then I deepen them, and then I give them suggestions. It's not a loss of control. Hypnosis means sleep in Greek, but you're not asleep. I have people who will afterwards, they'll say, I heard myself snore. Was I asleep? I said, when you lay down at night and go to sleep, do you hear yourself snore when you're sleeping? They're like, no. I'm like, well, you just heard yourself snore. You weren't sleeping. You were so deeply relaxed that you felt like you were sleeping. There are three levels. There's hypnotal, there's catalepsy, and there's somnambulism. Hypnotal hypnosis is what you go into every day. When you're driving home from work and you end up in the driveway and you don't remember the trip, you were in hypnotal hypnosis. Or you're watching a movie and you feel like you're in it. Catalepsy is more like when you're dreaming, your hands and feet go to sleep and you're in a dream state. Your eyes are likely to be in rapid eye movement and your mind is going to wander and drift, and you'll hear and you'll have thoughts of your own and you'll wind in and out of that. Somnambulism is characterized by amnesia, and most people don't remember if they were in the somnambulist state. I don't work in somnambulism. It's a deep state. I work in catalepsy, and catalepsy is going to allow you, but I liken it to this. Think of this metaphor. Think of your conscious mind as a Labrador retriever, and I throw a stick, and your conscious mind runs off to chase a stick, and I talk directly to your subconscious mind.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, and so you're hearing it, but the conscious mind is analysis, reason, logic, decision-making, and willpower, and it's the part we think is in control, but it's just the tip of the iceberg, and the subconscious mind is down here where the programming is. And the conscious mind uses the senses to bring in data and analyze it, but it measures it against the subconscious mind. And if it doesn't comport with the subconscious mind, it will reject it or make a rationalization. For example, the smoker who somewhere along the line, their subconscious programming made it okay you're not born liking cigarettes. In fact, you probably choked on it the first time you tried it, but somewhere along the line, the subconscious mind has made it okay. And they can look at the package and it says the Surgeon General warning, this will kill you. And they'll look at that warning and they'll say, yeah, but I was going to die anyway. Or remember Joe, he smoked until he was 90, right? And it won't happen to me. So the conscious mind creates a rationalization to overcome that input, right? So that's just a real easy example of it. There are many more subtle examples of why we hold on to things. And there are, things like secondary gain, right? So we have these behaviors because we get something from them. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's attention, maybe it's sympathy. I'm always asked people, are you ready to write a new story? Because sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not ready.
Last week we had Jason Wasser here. He's a family therapist, but he also does NET. And we started talking about asthma because I have adult onset asthma. And he was talking about, the meridians, the points, and he was saying how asthma is the lung, which is the place where you hold grief. It's unresolved grief. And he said a few things, but I honed it on the unresolved grief because I think that when he said that, I connected. I don't even know unresolved grief to what exactly. I would have to probably go into a hypnotherapy session and figure it out. But when he said that, I said, "Oh, I think I feel that." You know what? It totally makes sense.
Yeah. There are body syndromes.
And then the body, reacts that way,
Yeah, unexplained leg pain, you can't run away from your problems. Unexplained arm pain, you can't fight your way out. Unexplained back pain, carrying the weight of the world. I mean, these are simple illustrations, but they're an example. All of the organs correlate with a feeling. And
fascinating.
Yeah, so this is the energetic part. This is the non-material part. This is the energetic part. And understanding energy doesn't make you a witch. It makes you understanding the nuances of what it's like to be a human.
Right. Marina is asking, how long is the typical hypnotherapy session, and what is the average cost of hypnotherapy?
So the session is about an hour, and it costs vary. If someone wants to come in off the street and have one session, okay, it's $175. But I have packages, and the more you agree, because the more work you do on yourself, and I'm just a facilitator, the better you're going to be. And I want you to have a positive experience. And so the 3-pack you get down to 150. The 6-pack you get down to 125 each, and the 12-pack is 100 each. So I incentivize. The bigger package you buy, the better per session cost it is.
Yeah.
But there are people who charge a lot of money. I mean, there are people, and is it better? I don't know. They have good marketing.
What that is, we don't know. People charge and people go based on whatever they decide.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I went through a bunch of years ago through a very difficult period in my life. That's when I changed careers. But I called the therapist in town that I knew of, and I said to her, I need to talk to you, but this 1 hour thing has to go. I want to speak until I'm done. And if it's going to be more than an hour, I need to know that I have more than an hour. Now, my daughter is going for a doctorate in psychology. So she's a third year. And she's telling me, Ma, it doesn't work like that. It's an hour. It has to be an hour. And I'm like, but why?
Yeah.
Sometimes we need just a little bit more time.
I buffer. I keep a buffer in between. I don't back to back. And if it goes 65 minutes or 70 minutes, I don't watch the clock. It's, you can't, when someone's in hypnosis and you're doing, some work, it's just, you just don't look at the clock,
I feel the same. I have a coaching client. I give her more time. If we're doing progress, how can we stop because the 60 minutes went up? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm being a mom and not a proper coach, but.
Well, I mean, you need to be organized so that you can serve, the right amount of people. So organization is important, but with the buzzer goes off at 59 minutes and 30 seconds, it's not very loving.
Exactly. Thank you. And I see that you have your love in that's your main. I love that so much. Norman, I'm so inspired by you because I think that when you see somebody who went through such adversity, cancer, any health crisis, we're going through health crisis right now. It's scary. It's painful. It's unsettling. You don't know what's going to be the day of tomorrow. The bills start coming. I'm at a point that I'm laughing at the bills because it's ridiculous. It's like laughable. 40 minutes in the ER, 1,500. What's that? So I don't even care. There's no fear there. There's laughter at this point. But when you accumulate everything, you can really lose your mind. And to see how you manage to find a holistic way to feel better, to get better, I probably need to get a package, but we'll talk about that later.
I could have easily crawled into a bottle. I could have, been a grisly old, cynical lobbyist who drank myself away. I could easily have done that, and I chose otherwise. I chose to see the gift. My son saw a 5-star review of my book on Amazon and screenshot it. It was by a woman who bought the book for her mom who had breast cancer, and she was very grateful. And he saw this and he screenshot it and texted it to me, and I replied, "Isn't that great? If one person is better because of I had cancer, then the whole thing was worth it." And if one person, if I could help relieve the suffering of one person, it's.
I feel the same way. I have no words. A friend of mine asked me, "Why am I doing the show? Like, why don't I take some time off?" And I said to her, because if these shows, one person can be helped, it brought meaning to what I'm going through. So how could I stop?
That's right. That's right. I've got a quote. Let me grab this real quick.
Go ahead. If anybody has a question, please post it now, because we're going to be wrapping this up. And so if you have questions, just post the question.
I read this and I thought, this man knows me. This is exactly who I am. And it just happened to be Ralph Waldo Emerson. To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded.
I love it. Can you send it to me?
Absolutely.
I'll post it in the group. Please send me your information too, so I'll post it if anybody wants to reach out to you. I love, more than anything, being a connector. If I can help two people find, it's like a match. It's like a marriage. When you find the right healers for the right problems, for the right people, it's a pleasure for me to be able to be this connector. Love the quote. Love to have spoken to you. I sense the love that's in your heart. I know that you live what you preach, and that's very, very inspiring. And yeah, you are living a very authentic life right now, and no wonder you are healthy, because you're living this wonderful, healthy life. Guys, thank you so much for coming, for being here. We will have more shows I will be posting on in the group. As always, share, because sharing is caring. You don't know. One person may be needing to hear these messages, and just by clicking a button, you're going to give this gift to somebody. We're not selling anything. We're just spreading love. So go to my personal page or go to the YouTube page and share this show with your friends. Have a good night, everybody, and have a fantastic week. Bye-bye.